the mature simmer here. So it's pretty late in mid-autumn, as you can see. We're coming up, we'll be about at midnight in about 6 minutes here. So I've just been putting my equipment away from the coffee harvest this morning and starting to think about what year 72 might bring. And I've basically, I think, arrived at a relatively, radical's probably a word that gives a bit much more excitement to it than it is. But just the reality of balancing real life and what we're trying to do in Farming Simulator versus what we might want to do here. So where we're at is, it is the evening of November 12th, so we're going to be going into November 13th, which is what would be late autumn. And as everybody knows who follows Farming Simulator, FS22 is scheduled to be released on the 22nd, so basically 9 days. We still have 3 days of winter left in year 71, where not much will be going on. And that would mean basically midsummer, I think, is what turns out to be November 22nd, but it's basically right around the summertime of year 72. So we would be just about either starting harvest or getting ready to the next day, right when FS22 drops. And the tension that that creates then from where I want to spend my time is not something that I'm actually required to deal with. So I've made the decision, I believe, that I am actually going to let the fields sit for at least year 72 and perhaps year 73 while I focus on FS22. We are allowed to not farm in any way in FSN for up to basically 3 years. You have to farm at least once every 3 years. So basically year 74, if we were dormant 72 and 73, we'd have to do some activity on the farm in year 74, which certainly would seem to not be a problem. It's not as if, again, I'm thinking I'm just going to stop being involved in FSN or being active, but at a bare minimum, it seems like the best decision I can make at this point is to go ahead and let the fields lie fallow and not try to cram things in and go through a lot of effort in that regard in how to balance those things. So I think, well, I don't think, I'm making that decision at this point, because really if I don't start planning tomorrow, I was going to actually start planting tonight, as I have a little bit of time that I might do something. But instead of throwing oats on the field and then being required to do something with them, or of course having wasted all that money of putting them in, if I just leave them alone and let them wither, which wouldn't make any sense, given where the 22nd of November falls, it doesn't make any sense to proceed. So the other thing I'm going to do at this point, now that we're coming up on midnight, is talk about kind of what happens, and I don't know that we're going to see much on the fields because we don't have anything growing, But when the server changes over at midnight, basically the entire server updates. So if we were driving, usually within the first 5 to 10 minutes, I don't think I've ever seen it go up to 10 minutes. It's usually really within the first 5 minutes. You're going to, in essence, get a freeze at one point as things are heavily updating within the system. But once this trips over, we should at least see the ground temperature and the air temperature change. So there we go. Well, and now we can see if we were getting ready to harvest, because the air temp has changed. We're now suddenly too wet to harvest. So if we were on here tonight, which I've certainly done sometimes, we'd suddenly be forced to stop harvesting at this point. Now planting would be able to take place. It looks like the soil temperature is going to stay at 57, but as you can see, we're in late autumn. The other thing you can see is they did move that $1 million in that I talked about. So that's the summary of where I'm at. More than likely, just in the timing of how these episodes are coming out, this episode will probably appear just a few days before FS22 is scheduled to come out anyway. But what that will mean is, because I'm not actively creating new content, that there will be a break in the Misty Hills series. But I just do want to assure everybody that I will be back. I'll definitely probably be posting some short videos for certain, at least once every in-game year, which means at least once every 12 actual days you'll see something coming up about what the plan is. So if I do decide to not jump back into FSN for year 73, you'll hear that. And if I do something, because I may also make the decision of just dealing with a couple fields. So you can kind of see as I'm walking around here, see how it's like making me jump back and forth. That's the server update. So you kind of start to see that even if you're driving, your tractor would be bouncing back and forth. But, you know, growth states are changing, things like that change as the server rolls over to the next day. So that gives you just a little bit of a, additional detail about some FSN dynamics, but more importantly, we're taking advantage of the FSN dynamics and the tie into the real world, because the other piece that we have about the delay is Thanksgiving week here in the U.S. as well, and so I'll certainly, not be able to do anything likely for a significant portion of Thanksgiving Day. And then we're doing things just around the house as a family, getting the house decorated and so forth, usually the day after. And that falls kind of smack into the middle of autumn of 72 this year. So for all those reasons, it's just really looking like, rather than create a situation where I'm going to be frustrated because I want to be experiencing FS22, that I'm going to hold off this year and then not create that extra tension for myself with FSN work that I need to do. Because what that would turn into, especially if I planted all these fields, is, I'm going to be looking at probably 10 to 14 hours of harvesting that I would then have to fit in somewhere, which is gameplay that I'm not doing, getting familiar with FS22. So that is where we're at on that. So I will see you guys when we pick things up. Please hang in there, and you'll see content as soon as I'm actually doing anything again. And I'll definitely keep you posted at least 12 days from the last time the last video is posted. You'll see something else. Giving further information would be the longest break we'd have in this series. So that's all I've got for now. Talk to you next time.